Hey, a good evening, or wherever you may be around the globe. Happy to have you here on If You Don't Like That. The beginning of the NBA Finals tomorrow. I'll be on after the game with Rhino in Shacktown. We'll have our post-game show. We invite you to call with any questions, your feedback via the chat line, whatever else works for you. That will be tomorrow after game one. Hockey. What a great game so far. Florida had a 3-1 lead. Edmonton, though, scored 2 unanswered. Game one of the Stanley Cup Finals at Edmonton with the Oilers and the Panthers, a repeat of last year's final. And this game's going into overtime. Overtime playoff hockey. It is great. Hello in Seattle. David. Yes, always great up there in the summer. Sun will not set till almost past 9. Beautiful place. I remember being in Scotland in June of 2019, and it was still light out at 11 o'clock at night. That was a trip. I remember getting to St. Andrews for the first time on a Sunday night, and it was a beautiful sunset, and I was walking down the 18th fairway. You can walk on the, it's like a park. People out there with their dogs. I'm walking down the famed 18th across the Great Bridge there with Chris Russo and the guys taking beautiful photos at 11 o'clock at night, still light out. That's a trip when you're not used to that. That is a absolute experience to be in an area of the world where it's light out that late during the day. Is this Pacers team better than the 2000 NBA Finals Pacers versus the Lakers? That's a great question. It's so difficult to compare teams 25 years apart because the games played totally differently. Like, for instance, if you took Reggie Miller, right now, and put Reggie Miller in the NBA or Peja Stojakovic, how many three-pointers, how many points per game do you think they would average? How many threes a game do you think they would take? Because as good of a three-point shooters as they were, they'd even be that much better in today's era. I don't have the roster from 20 or 2000 in front of me to totally analyze that team. Siakam's really, really dynamite. I might give an edge to this year's role players on the Pacers, the bench. I'd probably give the starters of that team the edge. It's an interesting question. Who's the worst owner, James Dolan or Vivek Ranadive? Well, the one thing that James Dolan has going for him is the market that he works in. Whether the Knicks win or lose, they sell out every game. And even when the Knicks screw you over, they don't care because they know that the place is going to be packed for every game. So, and again, Dolan's got a much more history than Vivek. Considering that Vivek has only been in one playoff since he bought the team and they lost, I'd have to put him as a worse owner. Miller would be similar to Curry as far as shooting today. I agree with that. He would be similar. I totally agree with that. Give me the 2000 Pacers. They would punk this version of the Pacers. Why do you say that, Cody? Why do you say that? Dolan does own the Rangers as well. That's correct. That is correct. All right, if you want to call the show, hop on. I'll give you the link. There it is. You also have the QR code above my shoulder. And again, don't forget tomorrow, Rhino will join me, game one of the NBA Finals. Post-game show, that's tomorrow, right here on If You Don't Like That. Cody, I'm surprised. Why would you say they would punk them? I disagree with you. Here's something else that a lot of people don't realize. Are you aware that since January 1st, the Thunder and the Pacers had the two best records in the entire NBA? Did you realize that? So even though the Pacers are a 4 seed, since January 1st, the only team in the league with a better record, the Oklahoma City Thunder. I was not aware of that. This could be a pretty darn good series. I mean, I think Oklahoma City with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander would win. Cody, let me ask you this question. If the Pacers beat the Thunder, would that change your opinion of the 2000 Pacers punking this team? Just curious. I disagree there. They would not punk this team. I don't agree with you at all there. I don't. Rick Carlisle's teams never get punked, or very rarely. That's just, he's too good of a coach. And this team is how do I want to say this? I mean, they're just not one guy. They're not just two guys. Even though Halliburton and Siakam really were co-MVPs in the Eastern Conference Finals, they're more than just that. They're more than that. They have tremendous role players. I think you guys are wrong to say they would punk this version. I totally disagree with that. I think you're selling this team short. I think you're selling this team short. And again, it's very difficult to compare different eras of, I mean, we're talking about 25 years. Do I think that ESPN will water down Inside the NBA when they switch networks? Thanks, Grant. Here's what I do think. I think Shaq and Barkley will walk off the set if ESPN interferes with what they do, and Kenny for as well. And I don't mean to leave Kenny out, but I think those guys will just say, bye, see you later. We're doing it our way or we're not doing it. And they have the power where they can do that. They have the power to do that. I think they would just say, shove it and leave. And that's what they should do, you know? So to answer your question, first of all, they can't have Stephen A. Smith anywhere near those guys. That would be a disaster. And you know what's going to happen? They're going to try to make that happen. That would be a bad move. We already have too much of him everywhere. You know, if you're smart, and again, I can't remember the last time ESPN and smart were used in the same sentence. They would leave that show exactly where it is. Leave it alone. All right? Leave it alone. That would be the smartest thing to do. All right, overtime hockey. Florida and Edmonton. Game 1. D-Mac says, Grant, the Kings need to get ahead of their rebuild now and get ahead of some of these middle-of-the-pack West teams. Well, who says they're rebuilding? I haven't heard anyone say they're doing that. I haven't. What makes you think they're going to rebuild? You know? I haven't heard that. Nor do I think they're going to do that, because they have a delusional owner who thinks that they're already an upper echelon team. You know, I'm not answering any more questions about 2000 versus now. I'm not disrespecting you, but it's a stupid question. And the reason why I say it's stupid is because it's everything's different. The rules are different. The game is played different. You know, Shaquille O'Neal today, how would he be used? Right? Like, the game's different. So you can't compare different eras. We're talking about a quarter of a century, right? Can't do it. Can't do it. And so, like, I sit here and I kill time trying to go over, well, gee, who was on that team in 2000 and how would they do against this team? Like, why do we talk about these things? Like, why? Well, like, what does it do for you? because there's no answer. Like, I don't like dealing with subjects that don't have answers. Like, I don't like dealing with hypotheticals. I've never been a hypothetical guy. You know, I'm a New York Giants fan. Love the Giants. My favorite team in all of sport. Like, do you think I would want to sit there and compare the Giants defense? Or I'll even go a step further. I'll talk about another team, the Bears, when they won the Super Bowl in 85. Okay, the actual Super Bowl was played in 86. And I've watched the NFL since the early 60s. In my opinion, I have never seen a more dominant defense than the 85 Bears. Now, would I say that the 85 Bears would beat the 2024 Kansas City Chiefs? I'm not saying that. What I am saying is, in my opinion, of all of the errors that I've watched in football, I have never seen a defense that dominant. All right? Without that dominant. That's the most dominant defense that I've ever seen. Better than the Steel Curtain, better than any other defense. The Doomsday defense, any defense you want to pick. Even better than the Giants defense the following year, when they had great linebackers led by Lawrence Taylor, Carl Banks, Harry Carson, Gary Reasons. But the Bears had the best front four. All right? They were unbelievable. They had great linebackers led by Mike Singletary, and they had a great defensive backfield, and they had a great defensive coach in Buddy Ryan. So, like, if I were going to, like, go by what you're asking me, and you told me I had to win one game, would I take any of the Chiefs that won the Super Bowl or that Bears team? Here's my opinion, even though I know that we can't compare eras. Patrick Mahomes cannot throw the football from his back. End of story. Good to have you on here. Thank you very much. Grant is legit. Much respect for what he did while in Sacramento. Forever grateful. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Well, Cody, I don't know if you were, I don't know, I can't remember how old you are, Cody, but the Bears defense in that year the Broncos aren't in the conversation. Like, you can't put the Broncos of 2015 in the conversation. No football historian, none, not one, would put the 2015 Broncos defense in the same sentence as the 2000 Ravens and the 85 Bears. Not one. Like, that's not even in the conversation. They're not even in the list. They're not even in the top 10 list. Like, no one would put them ahead of the Steelers of the 70s, the Cowboys defense. Nobody would put them ahead of the Giants defense in 87, 86 technically, but Super Bowl was January 25th, 1987. Nobody would put them ahead of the Bears defense. Nobody would put them ahead of the Ravens defense. Nobody. That's the truth. I love Tyus Jones. Always loved him. Born in 85, Bears a little before my viewing days. Cody, I know how knowledgeable you are in sport, and I know that you're very good at looking and formulating an opinion that makes sense. Trust me when I tell you this. You would not believe how dominant they were. Like, beyond believable dominant. Beyond believable. With a great defensive coach in Buddy Ryan. They had Richard Dent, Dan Hampton, Steve McMichael, they had the fridge. They had Wilbur Marshall and Otis Wilson on the outside. Mike Singletary is their middle linebacker. They had Gary Fensick, who was great. Duerson, who was great. They didn't have any weaknesses anywhere on their defense. None. Their front four, you could not move off the line of scrimmage. You could not run on them. And you literally took 3 steps from center and you were on the ground. There was not an offensive line in football that could contend with them. Not one. Couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. It was men against boys. Said, I've seen the documentary, The 85 Bears. Let me tell you, again, Cody, I know how astute you are when you look at sports and your opinions. You would say, oh, that's the best defense of all time. Did I say Rex Ryan? I'm sorry. Buddy Ryan, of course. I beg your pardon. What an insult that is to Buddy. I covered that team. I was in Illinois working during that era. I was standing on the sidelines at Soldier Field for a lot of their games, freezing my ass off in December. I covered the team in Champaign, Illinois, the week of the Super Bowl, or the first week they practiced at the Bubble in Champaign because they didn't have an indoor facility to practice in Chicago then. So they came to Champaign, where I worked, and practiced there before they headed to, I think it was New Orleans, for the Super Bowl. So back then, the offense isn't as of today. That's why you can't compare eras, because of the rule changes. The reason why the offenses are so different now, first and foremost, are the rule changes. Quarterbacks used to get destroyed back then. Destroyed. You used to be able to mug receivers running down the field. Now you can't touch a receiver 5 yards off the line of scrimmage. That's why it's so different. All right? That's it in a nutshell. In a nutshell. You watching this overtime Stanley Cup game? I've got an eye on it, but not with my monitor on my phone. The hockey is better than the NBA. I don't even think it's close. But again, that's just my opinion. Just my opinion. But I love watching it. Love watching it. All right, we're rolling right along here. Good conversation today on this open forum. Let's get to Andre. Hello, Andre. How are you?
Hey, what's up, Grant? How are you doing?
Good, man. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, no problem. So what do you think of the argument that the NFL got soft over the years, compared to the penalties called, and same with the NBA, with the fouls called in the NBA? Because a lot of people think they both got soft over the years, and yeah, it's just the rules kind of just the referees are calling more penalties than fouls.
Well, the NFL changed because of science. The NFL changed because of medical data. The NFL changed because of the studies on CTE and head injuries. And so the NFL had to make rule changes to protect the longevity of the lives of their players. That's why the NFL made changes, completely different than the NBA. The NBA made changes to make their game more offensive. They wanted more offense. So they made changes to make it a more offensive game. That's why they're different. The NFL's rule changes is predicated on science and the protection of their players.
Yeah, I could see the NFL being like that because when I would see Antonio Brown, a lot of things changed after Antonio Brown with the CTE and stuff, with the concussions protocols.
It really started changing before then. But yes, I mean, when Junior Seau committed suicide and they had donated his brain to science and found CTE, that was also a big impetus of changing the way the game is played.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And for the NBA, I think the NBA just changed because the style of play just changed over the years.
They wanted more offense in the game, and that's why the three-point line is so prevalent. That's number one. And number two, and it's a very good question, Andre, the game changed when Steph Curry came into the league. His style changed the way other teams played.
Yeah, that makes sense. And speaking of the Kings, like, do you think there's no hope of us, like at least no hope, like making playoffs next year?
I would say there's no hope based on who's running the team, but I can't say for certain until I know the moves that they make. But I would say right now, on June 4th or whatever the day is,
Yeah.
I would right now I don't consider the Kings a top 10 team in the West.
Okay.
Clearly not a top 8 team, maybe 9 or 10. I want to wait and see what San Antonio does. I think if they remain healthy, they'll go right past Sacramento. I think Portland might go right past Sacramento. I know that Oklahoma City and Minnesota aren't going anywhere. Denver's not going anywhere. Dallas is going to be good. So I think Dallas is going to be good. I don't know about New Orleans yet because their entire team was injured last year. I
Yeah, I
still
don't know
think
about
I still
the
think
Phoenix
Memphis is
Suns.
better. Houston's better. So yeah, I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I mean, I see multiple reports saying how Kings, he can be interested in getting DeMar DeRozan, but if we get someone like a Jaime Jaquez or Nikola Jovic, I don't know if we could be good if we get a player like that in return from Miami.
Yeah, well, first of all, 99% of the things that you hear are going to happen don't happen. So keep that in mind. But I think we all can agree on one thing, Andre, is that if the Kings come back with the same roster, they're going to have the same result.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure. And thank you, Grant, for the
Hey,
call.
Andre, thank you. I appreciate you. Take care. Bye bye.
Yeah,
Good
everyone go
question.
to Bennett's West Side Grill. It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you, man. We appreciate
Yeah.
that. Take care. Thank you, Andre. It is awesome. And I love talking about it. All right. The West Side Grill in Rockland is freaking awesome. Bennett's is awesome. Prime seafood and steaks. All right. Regardless of what location you're at. He talked about the West Side Grill in Rockland being awesome. So is Sacramento and Roseville. Go to Bennett'sRestaurants.com to make a reservation. That's Bennett'sRestaurants.com. Prime seafood and steaks. And his favorite, Andre, and mine too, really. I love Bennett's West Side Grill. Bennett'sRestaurants.com. Good call to talk about. Listen, I understand why fans are fascinated with different errors, and you can't compare errors with an end in sight, right? Am I going to compare Murderer's Row of the Yankees to the 2009 World Series team? No. Am I going to compare pitching, Bob Gibson or Sandy Koufax, to what I see now in Major League Baseball? No. I mean, I can't. The game is completely different in every way, shape, or form. I can't. I always ask this question. If Shaquille O'Neal were coming out of LSU this year, would he be the number one player taken in the draft? And what style of basketball would you use him on? How would he play? Would he punish teams down low with his back to the basket with post-up basketball? If he did, he'd be the only one in the league doing it. How would they use him? Would he then all of a sudden have to adapt to being a three-point shooter in addition to everything else? Did I know that Keon Clark was drinking alcohol during games? I didn't know that, but Keon was a different dude. But I didn't know what he was doing during games. Said Junior Seau added a huge spotlight on CTE. In fact, I'd say CTE is part of his legacy and how he brought attention to the issue. 100% correct. 100% correct. Absolutely. Someone said, why would Miami want DeMar DeRozan? He doesn't play defense. It's a great point. He doesn't fit into the way they play. It's very true. It's very, very true. That's a great point. Very good point. You know, the way Eric Spoelstra coaches, the way they play, he would not fit in. And you can't change him. He is who he is. And you would know that before you acquired him. It's a great point. It's a great point. New Works Plumbing. They've got a fix for you. They're available around the clock, folks. If you have plumbing needs or concerns, New Works Plumbing. Give them a call. Go to their website or newworksplumbing.com. NEWWRXplumbing.com. New Works Plumbing. They've got a fix for you. If you want to call the show, we'd love to have you on. All right, here's the open forum link. You can click on that, or you got the QR code above my shoulder, and I'll be happy to put you on right here on If You Don't Like That. Don't forget, for those of you that are joining a little bit late, tomorrow, Ryan will be on with me right after Game 1 of the NBA Finals. We will have a post-game show. All right? I really enjoyed watching Halliburton on the Kings. Kings were a young team that time. Now we traded our potential players. Yeah. Thoughts on the NBA All-Star Game format for 2026? I haven't analyzed it that much, but I doubt very much I'll be watching. I can't remember the last time I watched an All-Star game in the NBA. It's been at least 10 years. I can't do it. Can't do it. Yeah, the wagon trains are blocking up traffic on Highway 50. You need me to come there and straighten that out. It's the stupidest damn thing in the world. You want to go and we talk about comparing different eras? You think when the settlers came out west on their wagon trains, they were on a paved highway? You want to really replicate what it was like that long ago? Get your ass in the woods and climb over the mountains in your wagon trails. All right? Forge your own dirt roads. Instead, you got to back up traffic on Highway 50, dressed in your garb, with your horses and buggies. Get your ass in the woods where you belong. Let me see you cross Lake Tahoe. Figure out a way to get around the lake. Not on the paved roads. Yeah, here we go is right. What a joke. Seriously. That used to just tick me off. I don't even live there anymore and it ticks me off. I'm still mad about it. Huh. Imagine how good Mark Price would be in this era of basketball. He'd be even better than he was, and he was tremendous. That's right. Go over the rocks. Absolutely. You know? Absolutely. You guys can compare defenses all you want. If you don't put the Bears number 1 in 85, then you're wasting your time. I mean, that's the reality of it. Just the way it is. I watched some great defenses. The Colts in the 60s defense was great. I watched all of that era of defense where they mugged you. I mean, they mugged you. I watched the Doomsday defense. I watched the Steel Curtain in person, not like on TV at the games. Watched them all. I was at an NFL game every single Sunday. Every Sunday. Every single Sunday. AFL, NFL. Before they really merged. Watched them all. Nothing like the 85 Bears. Nothing. Nothing. The Giants' 1990 defense is highly rated, and it is and should be because of the Hall of Famers on that defense. So when you think about first of all, any defense with Lawrence Taylor is in the conversation because he, in my opinion, is the greatest defensive player in the history of the game. Like, if you want to talk about the best defensive players in the NFL, to me, you start with him and work your way down. Carl Banks was tremendous. But that front, you remember Leonard Marshall was great. Jim Burt, before he left the Giants to go to the Niners, along with George Martin, tremendous defense. But they're linebackers. You know, you had two Hall of Famers playing linebacker. And I think Carl Banks was a Hall of Famer, but because he played on the same defense with Lawrence Taylor and Harry Carson, he gets overshadowed. That was a great defense, but not better though. Not better than the 85 Bears. And not better than the 86 Giants. The 90 defense was good, but not better than the 86 Giants. Not better. Best NFL offense. Again, now this is where it gets difficult. Said the greatest show on turf, Miami with Dan Marino. A lot of people look at the greatest show on turf with Kurt Warner in that year, with Marshall Faulk and their tremendous wide receivers. Again, the problem with comparing offenses in the National Football League is similar to comparing offenses in the NBA because the rules are so different. I mean, you cannot compare any offense that was in the 60s, 70s, or 80s, I'm including the 80s, with any offense today. You can't. Because the rules were completely different. Can't do it. Can't do it. So if you want to go by statistics, if you look at that Rams team in St. Louis, you know, Miami with the Marx brothers and Dan Marino, that was a phenomenal offense. They had a terrible defense, but you remember the Marx brothers, Mark Clayton, Mark Duper? Good offensive line, great offensive line, great running backs. They had a tremendous quarterback in Dan Marino. You know, when Dan Fouts was at San Diego, they had great offenses. But again, you can't compare, just can't compare that era to this era. It's impossible. It's a great one right here. People are really underestimating how rule changes affect different eras. It's almost like comparing apples to oranges. Spot on. The rule changes make it impossible to compare different eras. And not only that, science, training. Like I always tell you, when I started doing the NBA, there was one head coach and one assistant coach, one trainer, one equipment manager. Now it's absurd. You got as many assistant coaches as you have players. So, terrible. Why are the Knicks eyeing coaches who have jobs? Well, you can ask permission for a team to let you interview a coach, even if they have jobs. If that's what your question is, that's not unethical. Well, still can't believe the 98 Vikings team fell short versus the Falcons in the title game. Well, Brett Favre, that's why. Because he made one of the worst passes in playoff history thrown across his body when they had a lights out place kicker. It's just, to me, Cody, I didn't watch every game that Brett Favre played, but I think that was his worst decision and the worst throw that he's ever made. I think the second was in the championship game against the Giants in overtime when Corey Webster picked him off. But I think that Vikings, and if you go back and listen to the radio call of Paul Allen, who's great, he ripped Brett Favre live on the radio right after the interception. So we'll see. Some people think that Tom Thibodeau can come to the Kings as an assistant coach because of his connections with Scott Perry. You, my friend, have absolutely zero idea of what you're talking about. You just want to get on my chat and sound knowledgeable when you have no idea at all, zero idea about Thibodeau's connection with Scott Perry. I know. I would never make a comment as ignorant as that. So instead of me doing a 10-minute rant on your stupid ass comment, don't comment on things that you don't know about. Okay? Like, don't just think, oh, gee, this guy worked with that guy. We're going to hire them because of their connection. Don't do it. Don't do it. And if you think that Tom Thibodeau is going to take an assistant coach on a team anywhere in the NBA, you don't have any understanding of Tom Thibodeau. The guy is never, ever again going to be an assistant coach. Why? Because he's proven himself that he's a very, very good head coach. So stop with the nonsense. Oh, gee, this person worked with that person, so let's bring him here. Ugh. Driving me freaking crazy. Unbelievable. You're driving me so crazy, I may have to move to Sunrise Landing and play golf at Calusa Golf and Country Club where you can't bother me. All right? I'll be on the beautiful golf course there in Calusa. Go back to my beautiful home at Sunrise Landing. Shut the door so you can't bother me. Look at these beautiful models. Easy to get to, I-5, Highway 45, Highway 20. Go to CalusaSunrise.com. Check out this beautiful Blazona development project and Sunrise Landing in Calusa. Go to CalusaSunrise.com. That's CalusaSunrise.com. All right, rolling right along here. Overtime, been a good one. The one thing you cannot afford to do is commit a stupid penalty here and give the other team a power play, especially Edmonton. I'll tell you, though, Florida, boy, are they good. Both these teams are really good. This 2025 Pacers team couldn't see Shaq and Kobe either. Seriously, Lakers in 5. Well, that could have been one of the great teams ever with Shaq and Kobe because you had two of the great players ever, and you had tremendous role players. I mean, Derek Fisher was great on those teams. I don't have to tell you about Robert Horry, right? Green. I mean, great coach, Phil Jackson. So I'm with you on that. I think they probably would get swept if you could compare errors and like just look at the personnel. I still Kobe Bryant to me, one of the great players. And if the game's on the line, you want Kobe with the ball. But again, Tom Thibodeau is going to be able to go where he wants. And he's still got a mammoth amount of money coming his way. But I know Tibbs personally, and what makes him tick is being on the sidelines coaching a team. So we'll see. Might not be this year, but it will be soon thereafter. I can promise you that. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Hey, don't forget that tomorrow, Rhino in Sacktown will be with me right here on If You Don't Like That. Pacers, Thunder, Game 1, post-game show. 4.5 remaining in overtime. Florida and Edmonton still tied at 3. And when you win a cup, you got to win these overtime games. These overtime games, because this is not going to be the only overtime game in this series. And the winner of the cup will be determined by who wins these overtime games, especially if they go really long. Boy, it is just brutal to lose a long overtime game. Very difficult to bounce back from that. I've read that Michael Malone is not on the list to become the head coach in New York, which really surprised me. But I'm hearing from multiple people he's not on the list. Very interesting to me. I keep on hearing Johnny Bryant's name, who left the Knicks to go to Cleveland to work with Kenny Atkinson. Ott is leaving to go to coach Phoenix. Phoenix is a mess too. I did not say anything wrong. I just said he can have connections with him. Yes, you did say something wrong. You said two things wrong, but that's okay. Like, you have to understand that when I am criticizing you, it's not personal. It's like I don't dislike you. I don't even know you. I'm just saying, just don't think that because people work together, they want to go work together again. Okay? Like, don't think that. And also think to yourself, before you write something, ask yourself why Tom Thibodeau, number one, would want to be an assistant coach, and number two, why he would want to go from the Eastern Conference Finals to one of the worst franchises in all of sport. Ask yourself that. Ask yourself. Just think a little bit. That's all I'm only asking you, think a little bit. That's all. So yet you did say something wrong. You said two things wrong. But again, I'm not ripping you. I don't hate you. I'm not saying I don't want you on the channel anymore. I'm just saying think before you write. That's it. That's all I'm doing. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to give you a little advice. I don't know who you are. I don't know how old you are. I don't know anything about you. I'm just saying, give it some thought first. Give it some thought. Excited for a Pacer Stunner tomorrow. Man, that would set that series on its head. Yeah, it would. Yes, it would. Do I have Kawhi over Pippen on the all-time list? Totally different, because Kawhi was never Robin. He was always Batman. He was Batman in Toronto. Pippen was always Robin. You can't compare those two. I mean, you can't. That makes it so difficult. That makes it so very difficult. Have I ever heard of Brody Brazil and watched this channel? A fair amount of the videos have been on the business side of sports. I think he does a great job. I don't know if I've ever met him personally. I had him on my radio show a couple of times. I think his channel's great. I think he does a fabulous job. And if you ever are on his channel, you can put in there that I complimented him on my podcast if you want. I think he does a tremendous job. And that he is very good on the business side of sports. I would agree with that. I would agree. I think he's very good. And his shows are visually very good. He's very innovative, and he's very good with the technology today, which I'm not. Like, Rhino is much better with all the technology. I'm just a guy that likes to come on and talk, give you my opinions. Let's get into a little bit like I did with the viewer on the chat. And if I disagree with you, boy, I'm going to disagree with you. Doesn't mean I hate you. That's the thing when I used to do radio. Oh, Grant's an ass. Oh, Grant's so mean to people. Grant's it's entertainment, okay? Like, it's not real life. Stop it, okay? Get a backbone, would you please? Get a backbone. Like, Cody's been listening to me for a long time. Cody knows how I am. Cody and I met, okay? Like, I don't want to speak for Cody, but I bet you Cody went home and said, gee, I met Grant at the viewing party, and what an ass, and, not approachable. And, again, it's just, it's stupid, And again, I don't want to speak for Cody. He might not like me, but I'm just saying, okay? Like, it's a platform. It's entertainment, okay? Wow, Florida, yeah. Boy, that's brutal. Did they call a penalty on that? I'm watching the game casually on my phone here. They get a penalty for flipping for a delay of game? No. Anyway, 3-3, 2 minutes left in the first overtime period. All right, so tomorrow, don't forget, back here after game 1 of the Pacers and the Thunder. Looking forward to it. All right. Rhino will join me. We'll have a lot of fun. And hopefully we'll take your phone calls. Yes, Cody, it is fun back and forth opinions. Amen to that. All right. Amen. All right. Kawhi championship with the Raptors had a dent because of the injuries to KD and Clay. Well, doesn't have a dent to the people in Toronto, I can tell you that. It's a penalty. Anytime you flip the puck over the glass, it's an automatic 2-minute penalty in that situation. Automatic. Like there's no gray area. No gray area. Just is. All right. Talk to you tomorrow, everybody. Thank you very much. Even the text messages that were 180 degrees from the truth. It's all good. Come back tomorrow. All right? Come back tomorrow. Have a good one, everyone. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.